Jasmine Crockett just dropped a legal bombshell that has America talking. The Texas Congresswoman filed a stunning $150 million lawsuit against Rudy Giuliani, and the evidence she's presenting is absolutely devastating. What happened next left Giuliani's legal team scrambling and may change everything we thought we knew about the former New York mayor's recent activities. This isn't just another political lawsuit, this is a calculated strike that could end Giuliani's public career forever. Before we reveal the shocking evidence that has legal experts calling this case unprecedented, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any updates on this explosive story. Trust me, what you're about to see will leave you speechless. The documents Crockett's team filed contain allegations so serious that even Giuliani's closest allies are distancing themselves. We're talking about evidence of defamation, conspiracy, and financial misconduct that spans multiple years. But here's the kicker: Crockett has receipts, audio recordings, financial records, and communications that paint a picture no one saw coming. The timing of this lawsuit couldn't be more devastating for Giuliani. Just when he thought his legal troubles might be settling down, Crockett's team delivered what legal insiders are calling a knockout punch that could destroy whatever remains of his reputation and fortune. Sources close to the case say Giuliani was completely blindsided by the strength of the evidence against him. What makes this case even more explosive is that it's not just about money. Crockett's legal team has indicated they plan to seek criminal referrals based on the evidence they've uncovered. We're talking about potential federal charges for conspiracy, wire fraud, and violation of campaign finance laws. This lawsuit could be just the beginning of Giuliani's legal nightmare. FBI sources, speaking on condition of anonymity, have confirmed they're already aware of Crockett's evidence and are evaluating its significance. The possibility that this civil lawsuit could trigger a federal criminal investigation has sent shockwaves through Giuliani's remaining inner circle, with several associates reportedly hiring their own criminal defense attorneys. The $150 million figure has sent shockwaves through legal circles, because it's not just a random number pulled out of thin air. Crockett's team hired forensic accountants, reputation experts, and career damage specialists to calculate the exact financial impact of Giuliani's alleged defamation campaign. Every dollar is backed by evidence and expert analysis. To understand why this lawsuit is such a big deal, you need to know who these players really are and what's at stake here. At 43, this former public defender from Dallas has become one of the most fearless voices in the House of Representatives. She's known for her sharp legal mind, having spent years in courtrooms before entering politics. Crockett doesn't back down from fights, and she's built a reputation for taking on powerful figures who think they're untouchable. Her background as a criminal defense attorney taught her how to build cases that stick. She knows how to gather evidence, how to present it, and most importantly, how to win. When Crockett decides to go after someone, she doesn't do it halfway. She comes with everything Her colleagues in Congress describe her as someone who does her homework and never enters a fight unprepared. During her time as a defense attorney, Crockett handled high-profile cases that required her to take on powerful prosecutors and well-connected defendants. This experience taught her that preparation and evidence always beat reputation and connections. She learned how to find the weak points in her opponent's arguments and exploit them with surgical precision. What makes Crockett particularly dangerous as an opponent is her ability to stay calm under pressure. While other politicians might respond emotionally to attacks, she approaches conflict like the seasoned litigator she is. Methodically, strategically, and with devastating effectiveness. Crockett's reputation in legal circles is that of someone who never takes a case unless she's absolutely certain she can win. Former colleagues describe her preparation as obsessive and her courtroom presence as intimidating. When she decided to go after Giuliani, insiders say she spent over a year building what she believed would be an unbeatable case. Her political allies initially tried to talk her out of filing the lawsuit, arguing that it would be seen as a distraction from her congressional duty. But Crockett reportedly told them, "Sometimes you have to take a stand, even if it's risky. If we don't hold these people accountable, who will?" This decision to pursue legal action despite political risks demonstrates the strength of her conviction. Congressional colleagues describe Crockett as someone who doesn't bluff and never makes threats she can't back up. When word spread through the Capitol that she was preparing a major lawsuit against Giuliani, veteran lawmakers took note. Many have privately expressed admiration for her willingness to take on such a high-profile target with such serious allegations. But this case is personal for Crockett. Over the past 2 years, she's been the target of what she calls a systematic campaign of lies and intimidation. According to her legal team, Giuliani has been spreading false information about her, questioning her integrity, and even suggesting she's involved in activities that could damage her reputation and career. The attacks started small but escalated dramatically over time. What began as typical political criticism evolved into personal character assassination that targeted not just her professional conduct, but her personal life, her family, and her faith. Crockett documented every attack, every false statement, and every piece of damage they caused. Friends and family members have told Crockett that the constant attacks were taking a toll on her effectiveness as a congresswoman. Constituents started questioning her integrity based on false information they'd heard. Political allies began distancing themselves, worried about being associated with someone under such sustained attack. Rudy Giuliani was once America's mayor, the man who helped New York City heal after 9/11. He was respected, admired, and seen as a hero by millions of Americans. But that was a long time ago. Today's Giuliani is a very different person from the man who stood strong during one of America's darkest hours. At 80 years old, Giuliani has become a controversial figure whose legal troubles seem to multiply by the month. He's facing multiple investigations, has lost his law license in New York, and is dealing with financial problems that have forced him to sell personal assets. His association with various political controversies has left his reputation in tatters. The contrast between America's mayor and today's Giuliani couldn't be more stark. Where he once commanded respect across party lines, he now struggles to maintain credibility, even among his remaining supporters. Legal experts say his judgment has been seriously compromised, leading him to make increasingly desperate decisions. His financial situation has become particularly precarious. Court documents from other cases show mounting legal bills, unpaid debts, and assets being liquidated to cover expenses. Some legal observers believe this financial pressure may have motivated his alleged defamation campaign against Crockett, perhaps as a way to generate media attention and income. Sources familiar with Giuliani's finances say he's been desperately seeking new revenue streams, as his traditional income sources have dried up. His podcast and media appearances, while providing some income, haven't been enough to cover his massive legal expenses. This financial desperation may have led him to take increasingly extreme positions and make increasingly outrageous statements. The irony is that Giuliani's alleged attempts to generate income through controversial statements may have created an even bigger financial liability. If Crockett wins her $150 million lawsuit, it would represent one of the largest defamation judgments in American political history and could force Giuliani into personal bankruptcy. But here's what makes this lawsuit different. Crockett isn't just going after Giuliani for political reasons. She's alleging that he's been running what amounts to a defamation campaign against her, using his media connections and remaining influence to damage her personally and professionally. This isn't just about two political figures going at each other. This lawsuit represents something bigger. It's about accountability in the age of social media and partisan warfare. It's about whether powerful people can just say whatever they want about their opponents without consequences. Crockett's lawsuit sends a message that goes beyond politics. She's essentially saying that no one, regardless of their past achievements or current connections, is above the law when it comes to deliberately spreading false information to destroy someone's reputation. The $50 million figure isn't random either. Crockett's legal team calculated this amount based on projected career damages, emotional distress, and punitive measures designed to deter similar behavior. They're arguing that Giuliani's actions have caused irreparable harm to her reputation and future earning potential. For Crockett, this lawsuit is about more than money. It's about clearing her name and setting a precedent that could protect other public figures from similar attacks. If she wins, it could change how political discourse happens in America. For Giuliani, the stakes couldn't be higher. A $50 million judgment would likely bankrupt him completely. More importantly, the evidence being presented could expose activities that go far beyond what's already public knowledge. We're talking about potential criminal referrals, further investigations, and the complete destruction of whatever reputation he has left. The legal battle between Jasmine Crockett and Rudy Giuliani didn't start overnight. It's been building for months, with each side escalating their attacks until it reached this explosive moment. She was asking tough questions during committee hearings, challenging established narratives, and making a name for herself as someone who wouldn't be intimidated by anyone. That's when Giuliani first started paying attention to her. According to the lawsuit, He began making what Crockett's team calls targeted and malicious statements about her during his podcast appearances and media interviews. At first, these seemed like typical political criticism, questioning her experience, her motives, her understanding of complex issues. What made these early attacks particularly insidious was their calculated nature. Giuliani didn't just randomly criticize Crockett. He studied her background, her vulnerabilities, and her pressure points. He crafted attacks designed to undermine her credibility in the most damaging ways possible. Legal experts reviewing the case say this pattern of escalating attacks shows clear evidence of malicious intent. The progression from general political criticism to specific personal attacks suggests a deliberate strategy rather than spontaneous political commentary. But then things got personal. Giuliani allegedly started spreading rumors about Crockett's personal life, her financial dealings, and even her family. He suggested without any evidence that she might be involved in activities that could compromise her position in Congress. These weren't just political attacks. They were character assassinations designed to destroy her credibility. The lawsuit details specific instances where Giuliani allegedly made false statements about Crockett during interviews with major media outlets. He questioned her integrity, suggested she was hiding financial connections, and even implied that she might be involved in activities that could be considered criminal. These weren't offhand comments or casual observations. They were carefully crafted accusations designed to plant seeds of doubt about Crockett's character and fitness for office. The lawsuit includes transcripts showing how Giuliani would introduce these false allegations gradually, building a narrative over multiple appearances. What made these attacks particularly effective was Giuliani's skill as a communicator. Even in his diminished state, he knows how to present information in ways that sound credible to audiences who want to believe what he's saying. He would mix true facts with false allegations, making it difficult for casual listeners to distinguish between legitimate criticism and deliberate lie. What made these attacks particularly damaging was Giuliani's remaining credibility with certain audiences. Despite his recent troubles, he still has supporters who believe what he says. When he attacks someone, those supporters listen and often amplify his message across social media. Initially, Crockett tried to ignore the attacks. Her advisors told her that responding would only give Giuliani more attention and potentially escalate the situation. But as the attacks continued and became more personal, she realized that staying silent wasn't an option. She started pushing back during interviews, calling Giuliani's statements desperate lies from a desperate man. She challenged him to provide evidence for his claims, knowing he couldn't. But every time she responded, Giuliani would double down with even more outrageous accusations. The turning point came when Giuliani allegedly started targeting Crockett's family members in his attacks. According to the lawsuit, he made false statements about her relatives and their business dealings, dragging innocent people into his campaign against her. That's when Crockett decided she'd had enough. Instead of just hitting back in the media, Crockett did what any good lawyer would do. She started building a case. She hired one of the country's top defamation attorneys and began systematically documenting every false statement, every malicious attack, and every piece of damage caused by Giuliani's campaign against her. Her legal team spent months gathering evidence. They collected audio recordings of Giuliani's statements, documented the spread of false information across social media, and interviewed witnesses who could testify about the impact of these attacks on Crockett's reputation and career. The investigation revealed a sophisticated operation that went far beyond simple political attacks. Crockett's team discovered evidence of coordination between multiple parties, financial transactions that appeared to fund the defamation campaign, and a level of planning that suggested this wasn't spontaneous political criticism. Private investigators working for Crockett's legal team uncovered a network of social media accounts, podcast hosts, and media personalities who were allegedly paid to amplify false information about her. The scope of this operation shocked even experienced defamation attorneys who thought they'd seen everything, but they also discovered something else: evidence that Giuliani's attacks weren't random or spontaneous. According to the lawsuit, there was a coordinated effort to damage Crockett's reputation, involving multiple people and potentially significant financial resources. As Crockett's legal team dug deeper, they uncovered what they describe as a systematic campaign designed to destroy her credibility and effectiveness as a Congresswoman. The lawsuit alleges that Giuliani was working with others to spread false information about her across multiple platforms and media outlets. The evidence suggests that these attacks weren't just personal opinions or political criticism. They were carefully crafted lies designed to cause maximum damage to Crockett's reputation. The lawsuit details how false information about her was spread through specific channels, amplified by certain social media accounts, and coordinated to create maximum impact. What's particularly damaging is evidence suggesting that Giuliani knew the information he was spreading was false. Internal communications allegedly show that he was aware his statements about Crockett were not based on fact, but he continued making them anyway. The incident that finally pushed Crockett to file the lawsuit happened during a podcast interview where Giuliani allegedly made his most serious accusations yet. According to the legal filing, he suggested that Crockett might be involved in financial improprieties that could lead to criminal charges. The podcast host, apparently uncomfortable with the severity of Giuliani's allegations, repeatedly asked him if he had evidence to support his claims. Giuliani allegedly responded by saying he didn't need evidence because everyone knows what kind of person she is. This exchange was recorded and forms a crucial part of Crockett's evidence. What made this particular attack so damaging was its specificity. Unlike his previous vague insinuations, Giuliani allegedly made detailed accusations about specific financial transactions and relationships. These weren't just character attacks. They were allegations that could have triggered federal investigations and destroyed Crockett's career if people believed them. The false allegations were so detailed and seemingly credible that several news organizations initially began investigating Crockett's finances before discovering there was no evidence to support Giuliani's claims. This caused additional reputational damage as the mere fact that news outlets were looking into the allegations created an impression that there might be substance to them. These weren't vague insinuations. They were specific allegations that could have destroyed Crockett's career if people believed them. The problem was, they were completely false, and Giuliani had no evidence to support them. Within hours of the podcast being released, the false allegations were spreading across social media. Crockett's office was flooded with calls from reporters asking about the accusations. Her reputation, built over years of public service, was under attack based on lies. That's when she decided to strike back with everything she had. When Jasmine Crockett's legal team filed their $150 million lawsuit against Rudy Giuliani, they didn't just throw accusations around and hope something would stick. They came with evidence so devastating that it left legal experts calling this case a potential game-changer in defamation law. These recordings allegedly capture Giuliani admitting that he knows his statements about Crockett are false, but that he's continuing to make them because they're politically useful. In one particularly damaging recording, Giuliani can allegedly be heard saying, "I don't care if it's true or not. The point is to make people question her credibility." This isn't just someone making political attacks. This is evidence of deliberate defamation with malicious intent. The recording allegedly continues with Giuliani discussing specific strategies for maximizing damage to Crockett's reputation. He talks about timing attacks for maximum political impact, coordinating with other media figures, and even suggests ways to make the false information seem more credible. Legal experts who have reviewed this evidence say it represents a smoking gun that clearly establishes malicious intent. The combination of admitting the statements are false, while continuing to make them meets the highest standards for proving defamation under law. But that's just the beginning. The lawsuit includes financial records, showing payments made to various media personalities and social media influencers who amplified false information about Crockett. We're talking about a coordinated campaign with actual funding behind it. The evidence shows wire transfers, consulting agreements, and even expense reports that detail how money was used to spread false information about Crockett across multiple platforms. This wasn't just Giuliani shooting his mouth off. This was an organized effort to destroy someone's reputation. Perhaps even more damaging are the email and text message exchanges between Giuliani and his associates. These communications allegedly show a deliberate strategy to target Crockett with false information designed to damage her effectiveness as a congresswoman. One email chain allegedly shows Giuliani coordinating with others to time the release of false information for maximum political impact. They weren't just making random accusations. They were strategically planning when and how to attack Crockett to cause the most damage. The communications also reveal what legal experts are calling consciousness of guilt, evidence that Giuliani knew his actions were wrong and potentially illegal. In several messages, he allegedly expresses concern about legal consequences while continuing to plan attacks against Crockett. Crockett's legal team didn't just focus on what Giuliani said, they followed the money. The lawsuit includes detailed financial analysis, showing how funds were allegedly used to amplify false information about Crockett across social media and traditional media platforms. Bank records show payments to social media consultants, podcast hosts, and even some mainstream media personalities who repeated false information about Crockett. This evidence suggests that the attacks against her weren't organic criticism, they were paid for defamation. The financial evidence also reveals potential tax implications for Giuliani. If these payments were made without proper reporting, he could face additional legal troubles beyond the defamation lawsuit. Forensic accountants working on the case discovered what they describe as suspicious financial patterns that suggest an organized effort to hide the true purpose of various payments. Money was allegedly moved through multiple accounts and shell companies in ways that appear designed to obscure the connection between funding sources and the defamation campaign. The complexity of the financial arrangements suggests this wasn't a spontaneous decision by Giuliani, but rather a carefully planned operation involving multiple parties and significant resources. Legal experts say this level of sophistication actually makes the case worse for Giuliani because it demonstrates premeditation and intent to deceive. Legal scholars are already analyzing this case as a potential turning point in defamation law, particularly regarding political speech and social media campaigns. The evidence of coordinated paid efforts to spread false information could establish new standards for what constitutes protected political speech. Harvard Law School professor Alan Dershowitz, despite his history of defending controversial figures, acknowledged that if the evidence is as strong as it appears, this case could significantly expand liability for political defamation campaigns. The case is being closely watched by other public figures who have been targets of similar attacks. Several prominent politicians have already indicated they're considering similar lawsuits against people who have spread false information about them. The lawsuit has significantly raised Crockett's national profile, but not in the way typical political controversies usually do. Instead of being seen as just another partisan fighter, she's being viewed as someone who stands up for accountability and the rule of law. Polling data shows that her approval ratings have actually increased since filing the lawsuit, with voters appreciating her methodical, evidence-based approach to addressing the attacks against her. Democratic Party leaders have taken notice, with some suggesting she could be a rising star for future leadership positions. Her legal background has been crucial in how she's handled the situation. Unlike many politicians who rely entirely on their lawyers to handle legal matters, Crockett has been actively involved in building the case, demonstrating a level of legal sophistication that has impressed both supporters and critics. The case is already changing how political figures approach attacking their opponents. The evidence that paid campaigns to spread false information can result in massive financial liability has made many people reconsider their tactics. Political consultants across Washington are reportedly advising their clients to implement new review processes before making public statements about opponents. The Crockett case has demonstrated that the legal risks of defamation campaigns far outweigh any potential political benefit. Several prominent political figures have privately expressed concern that they could face similar lawsuits if their past statements are scrutinized as carefully as Giuliani's have been. This has created a new level of caution in political discourse that many observers say is long overdue. The Washington Post reported that at least 3 major political consulting firms have hired defamation specialists to review their clients' past statements and social media posts. Law firms specializing in political law say they've seen a 400% increase in requests for advice on defamation liability since Crockett's lawsuit was filed. This increased caution has already begun to change the tone of political discourse. Cable news shows are reportedly implementing new fact-checking procedures before allowing guests to make serious allegations about public figures. Social media influencers who previously made money spreading unverified claims about politicians are reconsidering their business model. The ripple effects are being felt in unexpected places. Political podcast networks are requiring guests to sign new liability waivers, and some major platforms are implementing stricter content moderation policies, specifically targeting unsubstantiated claims about public figures. The Crockett case has essentially created a new Crockett standard that media lawyers are using to evaluate potential defamation risk. Social media consultants and political operatives are reportedly advising their clients to be much more careful about the accuracy of information they spread, knowing that the Crockett case has established a new level of legal risk for deliberate defamation. Even protected political speech is being re-evaluated in light of this case. While politicians can still criticize their opponents, the evidence that organized funded campaigns to spread known false information can result in massive damages has created a new level of caution in political discourse. Perhaps the most significant impact of this case is the message it sends about accountability in American politics. For too long, powerful figures have believed they could say anything about their opponents without consequences. Crockett's lawsuit demonstrates that this isn't true anymore. The case has inspired other victims of political defamation to consider legal action. Several prominent attorneys report they've been contacted by potential clients who are considering similar lawsuits against people who have spread false information about them. This trend could fundamentally change how political campaigns and political media operate. The knowledge that deliberate defamation can result in massive financial consequences is already making people more careful about what they say and how they say it. Legal experts predict that Giuliani will likely try to settle the case, rather than face a trial where all the evidence would become public. A settlement could potentially reduce his financial exposure while allowing him to avoid further public humiliation. However, Crockett's legal team has indicated they're prepared to take the case to trial if necessary. They believe the evidence is so strong that a jury verdict could send an even stronger message about accountability in political discourse. The case is also likely to inspire copycat lawsuits. Legal experts predict that we'll see more defamation cases involving political figures as victims realize that they don't have to simply accept false attacks as part of political life. The evidence that organized defamation campaigns can result in massive financial liability may finally create the accountability that has been missing from political debate. For Jasmine Crockett, this lawsuit represents more than just personal vindication. It's about establishing a precedent that protects all public figures from deliberate defamation campaigns. If she wins, it could make American politics more honest and accountable. For Rudy Giuliani, this case could represent the final chapter in his fall from grace. Once America's mayor, he now faces the possibility of financial ruin and complete destruction of his remaining reputation. Giuliani case is being watched as a test of whether the legal system can provide accountability for political misconduct that doesn't rise to the level of criminal behavior. If deliberate defamation campaigns can result in massive financial consequences, it could deter similar behavior in the future. This case also demonstrates the importance of building strong evidence-based cases, rather than simply engaging in political mudslinging. Crockett's methodical approach to documenting and proving the defamation against her has created a template that other victims of political attacks could follow. The ultimate outcome of this case could determine whether American political discourse becomes more honest and accountable, or whether it continues to descend into a world where anything goes, as long as it serves political purposes. What do you think about Jasmine Crockett's legal strategy? Was she right to take on Rudy Giuliani with such a massive lawsuit? Let us know in the comments below and make sure to subscribe for updates as this historic case develops. This could be the moment that changes American politics forever, and you won't want to miss what happens next.